Hi YouTube, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Okay, so today I've got a one of the old school Gerber multipliers out. I'm going to go ahead and this one was in one of my toolboxes, and I'm going to put it in my my hunting pack. And anyway, so I was going to go through it and you know, clean up all the tools, sharpen up the wire cutters, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then I thought to myself, I said, "Self, you've never done a review for YouTube on these, you know, these Gerber multipliers." And you know, that's kind of a huge oversight on my part. I mean, I have used these things for a long dang time. Okay, I mean, this set right here has been in my work bibs, in the side pocket on the right thigh. Oh, I don't even know how long. I remember having one of these sets when I was in high school. I graduated in the late 90s, and so that's over 20 years ago. And you know, I carried one all the time because I was constantly working on cars, because I could never afford a car that wouldn't break down on the freeway or break down in town or break down on the way to school or, you know, any of that sort of stuff. So I was constantly working on stuff, and these things really came in handy. Now granted, this is going to be a review of these old ones, okay? Now I'm pretty sure they've changed a little bit since, you know, since these. I mean, everything, you hope, advances and gets better, or, you know, lower priced, or, you know, I mean, moves in some way, you know, over a couple of years, much less 20 plus years. But I would hope that the new ones are, you know, still fairly close to these old ones, or at least, you know, the whole design principle is kind of the same. So anyway, so we're going to go over this one right here, since this set's been, like I said, in my bibs for a long time. And I don't know if this is the set that I had when I was a kid in high school or not, but it is old. And I've got probably, I don't know, half a dozen pairs of these floating around. You know, I usually try to keep one in the truck and one in each car, and, you know, one in the kitchen cabinet, you know, your junk drawer with a regular screwdriver and everything. But just keep them everywhere. I typically pick these up at pawn shops now. Pawn shops, flea markets, yard sales, you know, that sort of deal. So I don't ever give full retail price for these, even though, honestly, I mean, as much use as I've had into especially this set, you know, full retail price would have been a bargain. I would guess they're probably 50, 60, 70 bucks, something like that. So anyway, so this one is old enough that it doesn't have any plastic on it. These buttons right here on the sides, this slightly newer version, it's got Allen keys on it so that you can probably take the pliers out. I've never stripped a pair of these all the way down. I only ever remember breaking one. And if I remember right, what I was doing was I was really clamped down hard on something with this. I mean, either that or trying to cut like a bolt or something like that with the wire cutters. I mean, we're talking, you know, grabbing a hold of it and, you know, pretty much everything I had squeezing down on something, and it sheared one of the jaws of the pliers. Honestly, I mean, could you call that a failure? Yeah, maybe. On the other hand, you know, I mean, I'm a pretty decent sized guy, and I was pushing this way past what it was intended. So call it a failure or not, but that's the only time I ever remember one of these letting me down. So anyway, so they're kind of a basic multi-tool, right? So, you know, I mean, closed, you've got, you know, your ruler in inches and centimeters. Let's see, you open the thing up. Now, the one thing that I love about these is that they are one-handed opening. So if you still have the belt pouch for it, you know, which had a Velcroing top, you know, you pulled the top up, reached down, grabbed it, flicked it out, and bam, you had your pliers and your wire cutters, which I always like the hog nose ones a little bit better than the needle nose ones. It just seemed to me like I used the, you know, the hog nose, or I like them more than needle nose pliers on a regular basis. These wire cutters, I've cut bolts with them. Now, granted, smaller bolts, you know, like a well, heck, I think with one of them I actually cut something like this, like a 1/4 inch by 20. Just cut it and then moved it and cut it and moved it and cut it until I finally cut through it. Now that was probably like a grade 5 or less. I don't think that you would cut through a grade 8 1/4 inch bolt with a set of these. I think you'd just, you know, mess them all up, or maybe that's how I busted the jaw on that one. So anyway, honestly, that's most of what I use on these things. Now, to get into the rest of it, you've got a, what is that, a 2 or 2.5 inch smooth edge blade. You've got a lanyard, which I honestly never used that. And then you've got a flathead screwdriver. And then you've got the can opener slash small Phillips head or small flathead screwdriver. On the other side, you've got a serrated knife, which I hardly ever use that. You've got a file, coarse side and a fine side, which honestly I tried not to use those very often to try to keep them for like an emergency type of deal, because you know, files, I mean, they've got a finite life. You know, you cut with them and then they go dull, and then that's pretty much it. Looking at this now, though, I really don't see, I'll have to look and see if you can order up new files, but if you can't, honestly, you know, I don't think that would be a tough deal to like make a new one. You know, you would just take, you know, a file of the appropriate size. Usually they are hardened from here up, but usually the tangs are left softer. Or if not, you can, you know, heat it up with a propane torch and soften the tang and drill you a hole that would correspond to this. It probably would be fairly easy to get done. Dang it, and these last two tools are always kind of a pain in the butt to get to. But anyway, so then you had your Phillips head screwdriver. You can see I rounded mine off quite a bit. I don't know, I guess I use that some. And then the bottle opener and different flathead screwdriver. And like I said, the whole thing, you know, just folds up into a nice compact little package and is easy to get to one-handed. When you're in a bind, you're holding on, you know, that's the thing that I like most about the multipliers over like the Leathermans, is the fact that the multipliers, you know, they were closed, boom, they're open and ready to go. The Leathermans, this is kind of a newer style one. This is a Leatherman Charge, and it's got all kind of tools on it too. But the Leatherman, you pull it out of the pouch and it's, I mean, you can kind of get to it one-handed, but it just takes a little bit longer. And honestly, they usually come in the needle nose points, and like I said, I use the hog nose more. You know, these are still amazing tools. I remember some of the guys that I ran around with in high school, they had the really old school versions of these, and they had loosened them up enough to where you could open them like a butterfly knife, you know, where they, oh, there it goes. Maybe you can do that on this one. Flick it out, and there you go. So there's that. And that kind of leads into one of the things that I never really did care for too much about these multipliers, and that is in hard use, when you're squeezing down on this, if these jaws slip, or if whatever you're cutting cuts through suddenly, bam. See that? No, you can't see that. It pinches the meat of your hand. Okay? So when you're grabbing a hold of that, or when you're cutting down real hard on it, just kind of bear in mind and kind of adjust your grip so that, you know, the meat of your hand can't get caught up in there and pinched, because that does it does smart a little bit. With the Leatherman, that doesn't really happen. I mean, you can get, you know, if you got real fleshy hands, or if you're choked up on it somehow, you can kind of get it caught up in there, maybe like that. But it, I never really did notice it all that much with the Leathermans. You know, I want to say that's about it. I mean, these things were just, like I said, I mean, I had that one that, you know, I busted the jaw off. And, you know, you'll break tools occasionally, you know, or, you know, the screwdrivers, you know, sometimes you'll kind of round those off, or the files will get dull. You'll need to sharpen the knife, of course, if you use it quite a bit. And you got the hand pinching thing. But other than that, these things have just worked so well for me for so long. They're just freaking amazing. And like I said, you know, they pop open one hand and ready to go. Like I said, I don't, well, just these two right here. I mean, these were two from the pretty much the same era. This one right here, like I said, I don't really see how you would take it apart. These don't have heads on them. And on the inside, they look like the fasteners, like for this button right here. It looks like it goes through the bottom of that jaw and is peened in place. So I don't think you're getting that part, getting these all the way apart. These ones right here, they've got Allen heads on these. And then on the inside, you can tell that they are threaded in there. So it looks to me like you could probably take these two or these 4 screws out and probably pop the jaws right out for service or whatever. But honestly, I'm not really too sure why you would never ever need to do that. I think folks take their tools apart way more often than probably what they ought to. As far as maintenance on these things are concerned, honestly, I never really maintained them probably like I should. These knives right here, you know, I mean, you guys know, I mean, I already carry a regular large pocket knife, and then, you know, a Swiss Army or a Victorinox Tinker type knife, right? And both of those have got more comfortable handles, you know, so like, and they're faster to get to. So like, let's say you want to cut something with this, right? So you got to pop it out, then you got to open it up, and then choose which blade you want. Get that blade out, especially one-handed, they're awful. Pull the blade out, get everything else back in there, put it together, and then drop it down, and then now you can use that knife. They are a slip joint type design, and the slip joint really isn't all that strong. You know, and they've got a little bit of wiggle and all that kind of stuff. So honestly, what I used these blades for, or at least the clean edge, was honestly stuff that I didn't want to trash my normal working edges with. So scraping gaskets, you know, pretty much scraping and just nasty work, you know. So so I did dull these quite a bit. Oiling, you know, I mean, I guess if you want to, you can put a drop of oil right down in there and, you know, work it back and forth to get the oil down in there, or do the same thing from this side. Even in this old school one, you can, this pin, you can pull it out to be able to either clean inside here or to replace the tools. So I suppose you could put a drop of oil in there or something, but honestly, there's not really a whole lot to anything else than that. Now, I think what I'm going to do is, like I said, since I'm setting this one up, and I think I got this one at a pawn shop or something, and I want to put this in my hunting pack, and I wanted to go ahead and go through it. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen up the wire cutters, because somebody at some point, whether it was me or anybody else, really cut into something that they probably shouldn't ought to be. And so I'm going to show you how to sharpen those. We're going to go ahead and sharpen the plain edge blade, and then we might just go over how to sharpen this serrated blade. It does have a pretty good burr on one side. The file, you know, it feels like it might still have some life left, but we'll go ahead and clean that up, oil it, and pretty much get it ready to go back in, or go into my hunting pack, and that'll be it. So anyway, so that is kind of my review on these old Gerber multipliers. If the new ones are anything like the old ones, God, the things just work, and they just, you know, and I mean, that's a heck of a sales pitch for stuff, isn't it? You know, when the thing just does what it's supposed to do, and does it for a good long time, and is, you know, reasonably tough, you know, I mean, the things just work. So, so yeah, so take that for what it's worth, but I've loved these dang things, and honestly, I probably ought to pick up a couple of more of them. Maybe I'll pick up one of the newer versions, use it for a little bit, and then compare it to the older version. That would be kind of a cool video, huh? But anyway, so again, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time.